train all the people that are going to come into the military.
Right.
So you could not get out. If you were in when the Japs had attacked there, you can't get out.
And so that's what happened to your dad. He was set to retire.
You can put it in the paperwork, but
It's not going to happen at all. Okay.
You're needed. You're needed for the country.
Right.
The country needs you to train everybody else who comes in.
How old was your dad at the time?
How old?
Yeah.
He was ready to retire, so he probably had 20 years of service.
Okay.
And I think you joined the Navy at age 16.
Okay.
Prematurely.
Oh, okay.
So 16 and 20 years is 26. No, 16, 36.
36. Okay, so he was still relatively young.
Relatively young.
Okay. I just imagined him as like this old man, but he still had like so many years ahead of him. He was just ready to be
36.
Yeah.
And I was I think I was 9.
9.
Yeah.
What do you remember about when they attacked?
Oh, lots.
Can you tell me about it?
Everybody was afraid the Japanese were going to land at its army.
Okay.
Everybody was worried about that because there were rumors that the Japanese intended to invade Hawaii.
What was the very first thing you remember about the attack?
The first thing I remember? Well, we lived in a place called Pearl City,
Okay.
which is right on Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And the airplanes would come right over our house.
Oh my God.
And I could see the pilot. That's how close they were to the ground. And then they weren't interested in dropping bombs on civilian houses, which were on the harbor. They were interested in dropping bombs on ships that were in that harbor where we were living, right on the water. So I saw airplanes coming right over my house. I could see the pilot.
And were you inside or outside? Were you outside?
To watch the airplanes that come over the house, I was outside.
You were outside.
But they weren't interested in me or the house or anything else there. They wanted to drop their munitions on Navy ships.
Did you know that they were enemy ships enemy planes?
Yeah. We had a big red ball on the airplane.
Okay.
And I could see the pilot. And there's usually 2 pilots in the airplane. And if it's a big bomber, there's more than that. So all that was happening. It was a mess. There was lots and lots of talk about why didn't the military know this was happening? How could this large armada of ships get from Japan to the Hawaiian Islands with nobody knowing? The answer to that has never been disclosed.
They don't know why. They don't know why no one knew?
Well, there may be people who know, but they're too high level, and they would certainly not disclose that they knew that.
Certainly not to a 9-year-old boy.
Well, not to anybody. Certainly not to the press.
No.
Okay. Because You know, there were some rumors that the president knew this was en route and was going to happen, but he didn't want to do anything about it. He wanted to see the Japs attack us and use that as a reason to go to war with Japan. There was, there were stories like that.
What do you think about those stories? Do you think they were?
I think there's a lot of truth there. Because, for people who are in the Navy, they can't understand how the Japanese can have an armada of that size to cross the Pacific Ocean, which is a very, very large ocean. How'd they get from Japan to Hawaii without being discovered?
Someone would have noticed them at some point.
Well, the Pacific Ocean is a very large ocean, but there's all kinds of people and transports going back and forth. So how come nobody ever noticed? I mean, we have airplanes flying over that, doing regular stuff.
Yeah.
We have ships sailing back and forth across there. How come we didn't see anything? And to this day, I don't know the answer.
You were just a spectator.
I would expect that it would have been detected. And long before they get close to Hawaii, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but it's a very long way from Hawaii, Honolulu, from Japan to Hawaii.
Yeah. Can I ask where was your dad when that happened?
He was at home.
He was at home too?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was at home. He got in the car and went to the Navy Yard, and he read the flag hoist on the flags that were on the ships that were at dock, and the message was return to ship. That was what the flag said. And so he went home and put on his uniform and went to his ship. And the ship was under attack. Subsequently, after he got on.
After he got on the ship, then it was under attack?
Yeah, it was.
But before he got on, it wasn't?
Oh, no.
Okay. Were they still at dock before it was? Were they at dock when it was attacked?
Well, in this particular case, there was one ship that was at a dock, and his ship was tied to the ship that was at the dock.
Okay.
But there were the Japanese that fired a torpedo at both ships, but his ship did not have as deep was not as deep as the ship next to the dock. So the torpedo went under his ship and into the ship that was at the dock and damaged that ship. It also damaged my father's ship, and it started to sink. And he and many other sailors slid down the side of the ship to get off. And they got on the ship inside and then off to the dock.
But both the ships sank. Both of those other the ships that were hit sank.
What?
Did the ships sink that were hit? Do you remember?
I think his ship did not sink.
Okay.
But the ship at the dock that took the torpedo I think, did sink.
Do you remember how long did the whole attack last?
I don't really know the answer to that,
Yeah.
but it went on for a long time.
Like more than a day? Or just
No,
one
not
day?
not more than a day, but over a half a day.
Okay.
And they arrived in the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah, sunrise.
What did you do while it was going on?
Well, it was my son, my
Brother.
brother and my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from the house on Pearl Harbor. We got out away from the harbor, and we were able to stay with some friends, which were inland.
Away from where the fighting was?
Yeah, where all the fighting was. It was my mother and my brother and me with a family that we were friendly with. But there was us three, and there were probably at least three other people. But the people who had the house took care of us. You know, they were all. I mean, it was the women of the sailors
Mm-hmm.
that were out fighting the war,
Yeah.
and this one family did take at least two. I think it was even more than that. But they just
Families? More than two
their
families?
house.
Yeah.
And they were all camping in. You know, they were all camping in. And then when it was rumors that the Japanese were invading Hawaii, everybody was scared about that. It wasn't true, but there was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have dropped parachuters, they could have driven boats ashore. It could have been that. It would have been that. But they didn't do that.
Do you remember when your dad came home?
Yes,
What did he look like? Like, do you remember anything about that?
yes. He was, he'd been in the war and seen a lot of bad news, but none of it affected him personally. Well, it did affect him personally, but he wasn't hurt
Mm-hmm.
in any way.
Lost a few friends.
Yes, yeah.
Did he have like a different look on his face? Did he have like a different look on his face or something? Like, what makes you say that? Yeah.
No,
Were you at home when he came back, or did he come meet you at the family's house? Do you remember?
we stayed at the family's house. I think it was probably 2 weeks or so.
Before you saw him again?
And about 2 weeks after the start of the
Bombing.
Japanese attack, my father did show up
Okay.
there, and I think maybe he'd stay there a day or so and go back to the ship. Everybody, you know, every military, every soldier, sailor, Marine was busy.
Yeah.
They were needed to do a lot of things.
Right.
Because, you know, the Japanese had withdrawn. They were not dropping any more bombs, but there was a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Ships that were on fire, sinking, and just chaos. Absolute chaos.
Had you been going to school before that happened, or was this in, like, what time of year was this?
No, it was December 7th.
So you were in school during this time, like you were supposed to be in
I was
school.
in the 3rd grade.
He was in school when they dropped the bombs. And he had to ride his bicycle and take a ferry boat across a body of water to get back home. Right?
I don't remember that, Glenn, but
Well, I remember
think
you
you're right,
told-
but I
yeah.
don't remember that.
Okay.
I mean, I
Well,
think probably somebody knowledgeable had told you that.
You told me,
I told you that,
yeah.
yeah.
You were going to school.
Oh,
and-
yeah, I was going to school because the school I went to was on an island,
Okay.
which was called Ford, F-O-R-D, Ford Island.
Mhm.
And it had a airport on the island. And I was going to school on it.
Yeah,
And I had to take an outboard motor boat over to that island every day of school
yeah,
to get to school.
and back again.
And back again, on that boat, on the launch, bring me back to the mainland.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
then ride your bike home.
ride a bike home.
That's quite a commute for a little kid.
For a third grader. I was a 3rd grader, I think. 6 or
Yeah,
7.
ride your bike from home to the port and then get on the boat and ride the boat across the water to the island and then walk to school
Well,
and
I
then do it
think-
again the other way around.
I don't know that happened. I did ride a bicycle and get there, but I don't think the motor launch was running. Because
You said the planes came very early in the morning, right?
what happened?
You said the planes came very early in the morning,
Planes came early in the morning. They did.
so probably before school started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know that all that you said was the way things were. I don't know that we went on a motorboat to the place and get drawn back and get back on a bicycle. I don't know that all that happened.
Maybe you were on the way to school before he had even gotten to the boat.
Well,
Or-
I don't know what the
Or those were two different stories.
You've heard other stories?
I'm saying, Dad was saying that you wrote, like, how you got to school was one story, and what you were telling me about the attack on Pearl Harbor was another story. And
Well-
those were two separate things that he
Those
thought
are
were
two separate
together.
things because one of those things was normal work.
Yeah.
I ride a bicycle, I get on a motorboat, I go to the school, I attend the school for 6 hours or so, get back on a motorboat, get back on a bicycle, and ride my bicycle home. That was normal. Now, how much of that was happening on that day, I don't really know.
Can I ask?
I doubt the motorboat was running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I certainly wouldn't want to take the bicycle there, get on the motorboat, and then not be able to get back. Because even if that were true, I don't think they would have a power or a motor launch running back with kids on board and with Japanese airplanes strafing everything they could see.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be part of what was going on.
Yeah,
But
I think he's right.
But I can believe that there's a story that says that. You know, people might have thought that happened, or thought that's what did happen, but I don't believe that I got on a motorboat. I don't think they'd be running that powerboat because it's a powerboat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
boat
You're not
with
gonna
a
have kids on
powerboat.
there. Grandpa,
And every Japanese plane that comes over and sees that, they go to strafe it.
can I ask you another question? How long were you guys in Hawaii after that? Like, did you guys stay in there for a while?
Very short time.
Okay.
My father was a chief yeoman. A yeoman, I don't know there is such a thing equivalent in the non-military. But in the military, every senior officer will have a yeoman who takes care of everything that requires writing.
It's like a secretary.
Yeah, that's what every senior officer would have a yeoman to do paperwork. I don't know what put that up, but
You were saying how you were leaving, how long you were in Pearl
Oh,
Harbor.
so yeah, my father was a chief yeoman, which is like a senior secretary to the captain of the ship
Right.
that he was assigned to. But he had been in the Navy for almost 30 years. Had a lot of friends. A lot of friends there in Hawaii, Navy friends, or military, but mostly Navy. Navy, mostly. So he had a lot of friends. And some of those friends had some of those friends were senior yeomen.
Mm-hmm.
And the yeoman is the secretary to a very senior officer.
Right.
Very senior officers have influence
Okay.
within the service. So my father was able to get us on a ship back, the first ship that left.
Mm.
It was called a Lurline.
What was it called?
Lurline. It's a civilian ship, but the Navy acquired it and decided who got on it to get back to America. And my father
Used his
was
power.
in the world
Yeah.
of influence. And he got us on the first ship back. It was called the Lurline.
Can you spell that?
Huh?
Can you spell that?
Yeah, Lurline. It was a standard ship, a civilian ship that had a run back and forth from San Francisco to Hawaii. But it was a civilian ship.
Okay.
They had about 3 of those. One was called a Lurline and one was called, I knew 3 or 4 of them. I mean, I used to, but I don't know anymore. Anyway, so because of his influence, his ability to get influence, we were on the first ship out of there.
Okay.
And it left Christmas Day. And arrived in Hawaii, I arrived in San Francisco on the 1st of January.
So that was your Christmas present, getting to leave Hawaii.
It takes about 5 days for those Orleans, Matsonia, Orleans, and I think there's one other that they used to have. And, they would fill those ships with people of influence and run them over to San Francisco.
Were you guys happy to leave?
Absolutely. We want to get the hell out of there. Because, well, Hawaii was a place full of damaged ships.
Yeah.
Many sunk. So there was a full-time job for anybody who had any skills whatsoever. Well, you don't even have to have skills, just know how to, I don't know, paint or be part of a group that's working on ships.
So it was
many of them are damaged of all kinds. It was a mess.
It was a bustling hub, but not for little boys and families.
Like,
So it was like a very busy place, but not for little boys or families.
No, those families wanted to get home.
Get it home, yeah.
Yeah.
And so was that the end of that whole experience when you guys got back to San Francisco?
Well, fortunately, we had my father and mother had friends who lived in a place near San Francisco, and they took us in for a couple of months. And I went to school there. And it was interesting, for kids. The kids were aware. They, we're going to war, and we're living with this other family. They had a couple of daughters, I think, at the time, older than I at the time. And I remember a lot of the schooling that I had there. Of course, I was in California, so that was a lot of what is taught was what was about California.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned a lot about California. And then we moved to Akron, Ohio, which is where my grandfather and grandmother lived. And I went to school there in Akron, Ohio.
And your grandfather ate chicken feet for breakfast with gravy.
My grandfather would, he would do that. Chicken feed with gravy.
So if you were 9 when all of that happened, when were you born?
When was I born?
Yeah. When's your birthday?
December 18th. And December 7th and I was about 9.
Okay. What year were you born?
I don't know. December 18th, 1932, maybe?
Does
that sound right, Dad? Yeah. And
he knows.
what did your parents call you?
They call me Spud.
Spud? Okay. What's your full name?
Walter Raymond Flowers.
Okay.
Let's go home.
Okay.
Okay.